Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Got a Vivaro today, won't start. It's electrical issue, the battery starter motor or the ignition switch, some wiring. But I thought I'd go through troubleshooting this, and it's going to be applicable to loads of cars, loads of vans. Hopefully it'll help you out. Okay, so I'm going to have a go starting this. So I've got the key in. Yeah, I see the lights coming on. And that's just clicking there. So let's go over what that can mean. It can mean our battery's flat. It can mean there's an issue with our starter or the solenoid on the starter. Issue with our wiring. We can see that the light's coming on there, and we're getting that click. So to me, it's not a problem with the switch. If you're not getting a click or anything, or even more so if your lights aren't coming on the dash, I would say that, yeah, you most likely got a problem with your ignition switch. This down here, you're going to have to take that out and get that replaced. Or it could be the wiring from that switch. Again, a bit of test is going to be needed for that. If you're getting a lot of rapid clicking, like click, 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 it's almost always a case of the battery being dead. And like we had then, it's either starter motor, I would say just one strong click, either a starter motor or a wiring issue. So let's go down and have a look at some wiring. So a lot of modern cars, they'll use a relay box like this. They'll have big relays, big fuses, and your starting current or the solenoid wiring will go through that relay, just so you've not got as big a cables going up to the switch. I've done a video on testing the switch and everything on the Land Rover Series 2, and it's the same principle. But this is the Vivaro. There's no relay on the start circuit, it's just 3 fuses, so I'll go inside the cab, check that out. So this is the battery compartment, and do some basic tests. I've just got a cheap multimeter. What we're going to do is put it on 20 volt, and this line on top is DC, this squiggly one is AC. And what we're going to do is put one lead on the positive first. Get that wedged down there. I could really do with another hand free. But you can see they've got 12.93 volts across the battery. So anything above 12.7 is a good indication. It's not foolproof. It doesn't mean definitely that your battery's good, but yeah, to me that looks like it's good. So the next thing I'm going to test is my earth from the battery onto the body. And you can do this with a live battery or a dead battery. Anything you test live, we're just going to be testing for volts. If we could disconnect the battery, we could put it on ohms on here and check the resistance from this cable onto the body. We should have very low resistance for that. But what you want to do to test it live is I've got my red still down on the live terminal of the battery. What I'm going to do is come over, look for something here with some bare metal. So I'm going to pin that on there. Now we can see there I've got 13 volts between the positive terminal of the battery and here. So that's a pretty good indication that the earth onto the body is good. It would be really advantageous to be able to go down and check the earth on the starter solenoid itself, but the access on these is extremely difficult. So I'm going to do as much testing up here as possible, because even just to get my wires onto it, I think I'll have to take a bit of the exhaust off, maybe the catalytic converter out the way, from what I've seen underneath. So next thing I'm going to check is we've got fusible links all up through here. Now, I imagine these two are for the down to the starter motor. One of them's probably onto the solenoid. And the way I'm going to test this is, I'll just show you. I don't think I'll be able to hold the camera at the same time. I'm going to test it live again from here to earth, and then I'll test from here to earth, and on both readings I should have the same 13 volts. So I'll do that, see what we get. Okay, so I'm going to be using the same earth point that I've just tested earlier on the body, prove that's working. We're just going to scratch this down. As you can see, that should be going straight up to 12 volts, and it isn't. So I can scratch a bit more, try and get under the grime. You can see it is getting up to 13 volts, but it's a bit dirty on the surface, so there's a potential that that could be an issue. It's probably going to be worth taking it off and cleaning up, but it's not conclusive. And then what we're going to do is test the other side, the fuse. And again, we're getting some voltage, but that should again be going up to 13 volts. There we are. So again, maybe a bit of a dirty connection. And then across this side here, this one. So on this one I'm getting nothing. So on this one I'm getting nothing, so there's a chance that there's an issue with this fuse here. Or it could be that it's just dirty and needs cleaning off. Go on to this one, really strong 13 on that. And this one, again it's a bit slow going up, but that could be due to the connection on this side as well. So I think what I'm going to do first is, let me tilt this over, is I'm going to disconnect the battery, make it all dead first, and then I'm going to open up this bus, clean off all this side, do the same on this side, and then I'll do a resistance test across these fuses, see if there's an issue there. I'll be honest with you, I'm not sure exactly where each one of these wires go to. I've not traced it, I've not got a drawing that's told me, but you can see this is a 175 amp fuse. This one doesn't say what size it is, but it's a big size cable on it as well, so I would imagine these two are for the starter. Not sure about the others. One of them's probably a going up to the ignition switch, and that's going to go run down to your solenoid to engage it. And then this one here is probably to power all the rest of the electronics from your fuse box. You can see this hasn't got a fusible link on it here, so that'll feed into a fuse box similar to that there. But yeah, like I said, disconnect the battery first, make sure it's all dead, and then we'll clean off these terminals and check across this fuse in the middle, the black one. Okay, so you can see I've taken the negative terminal off there, and I've pushed that way down. There's no way that can accidentally jump up and touch that. But looking at this, I think the easiest way for me to do this is to disconnect here. I'll just take off all these cables here. And then I've got one bolt, and I can take off this whole bus if you like, take it into the workshop, get it cleaned up, tested in there. Be a bit more comfortable for me, a bit warmer as well. Okay, now so you can see I've taken this bus off. It's pretty dirty inside. You can see though where the connections where these were joined on, they're quite clean, but what I'll do is before I put it back, I'll take these two off as well, clean up all that, so there's not going to be an issue with that. But yeah, on to testing these fuses. So the first one we're going to do is this 175 amp, and if you remember, this one was fine on the car, on the van. So we're testing that, and we're getting 0.03, 0.02. Come on to test this one. Now we can see there is infinite resistance in that. So most likely that's the problem. Why is that blown? I'm not too sure. What I'll do next is obviously clean this up, get a new one of these, get that fitted, and we'll see whether this one blows again. If it does, then there's another issue, probably with the starter motor, shorten on itself or something. If not, then happy days. So obviously I found the problem on top with the fuses. Let's say you check all that and that's all okay, then you want to be checking down to the starter motor, maybe checking the voltage drop across it while someone's trying to start it. It can also be that the solenoid's sticking on the starter motor, in which case you can be giving it a tap, see if that'll free it off, and that's going to be like a temporary short-term solution, but further down the line you're going to have to buy a new starter motor. And then yeah, just have to give all the wiring a good check, all the connections are tight. You can check for continuity. If you've got a dead circuit, you can check for resistance. All quite simple. If you've got an electrical diagram, at least of your starting circuit, if you can find that to see if there's any relays in that circuit, then you can go and check those relays, test those, and go through it step by step but I've got a £10 or £20 multimeter, and I'm able to test everything before I actually have to spend money on buying a new starter motor and doing a trial and error, which is just going to get really expensive for you, especially with the labour costs, with how difficult it is to get to at this van. But the principle is the same for all cars, vans on this 12-volt system. That's how I'd go through fault finding. In this cold weather, most likely your battery's flat, in which case you can use a second battery, use jumper leads. Again, just go positive to positive, negative to negative. So you're putting them on in parallel, and you'll have no issues with that. So if this video has helped you out, please give a like and subscribe, and thank you very much.